Welcome to the Primal Endurance Podcast, where we shake up the status quo of ineffective conventional endurance training. Enjoy an assortment of expert guests, where we cut to the chase and give you the unfiltered scoop on what it takes to go long, have fun, and stay healthy. And now, here's your host, Brad Kearns.
Okay, welcome to another video podcast. If you're listening, there's one very good looking female here and two flunkies on either side of her, flanking her. And it's Dr. Cate Shanahan, Luke Shanahan, co-authors of this fabulous books, Deep Nutrition and Food Rules. And we're going to talk about how a new one's coming out. And then I'm your host, Brad Kearns. Thanks for listening or watching. So the main thing I want to get into on this show is your guys' passion, negative passion. You don't have a lot of positive passions and great hobbies, and we can talk about those too. But
let's
the
talk about what we hate,
against vegetable oils and how prevalent they are in the food supply and especially in restaurants. So we'll get into that. But this came out of a discussion off camera where we were talking about your new book, and you have a chapter about brain health and the good things you can do for your brain, the superfoods, but mainly the worst thing possible for your brain is, are you saying that this is the vegetable oils are the worst thing?
Yes.
The science is getting clearer and clearer, and it's not at all. There's a number of reasons why that's not at all a radical assertion.
Because I've been working with a lot of folks who are primal aligned and trying to do paleo and or deep nutrition or just ancestral eating. But when they go out to eat, they don't realize that they're getting about probably 30 to 60% of their calories from vegetable oil.
At a typical restaurant.
Yeah.
Even a decent
even at
one,
a good
one.
restaurant.
Even top-end restaurants to save a little bit of money because they've been told by nutritionists now who we now know are at least 20, 30 years out of date on their information. But these so-called neutral oils that are so cheap and can stand such high heat, problem is that they're toxic as heck, and they're the last thing your brain wants for your child's brain development, for you to have cognitive acuity, for you to have energy throughout the day, for you to be able to concentrate, for your brain to be able to respond after minor injury or severe injury like concussion, for your brain to be able to do the basic maintenance that it has to do every day just to stay a healthy organ, and finally to age well, to have a well aging brain. And I tell you what, if you specifically engineered a weapon for whatever reason you wanted to make people's on Earth, you said you're an alien from whatever bad brainistan, out in some planet.
It's nice. This is a bad country. Very bad the brain, very small in bad brainistan. Borat don't like this.
I think Borat would show up. He'd say, "Oh, the olive oil is good. You should have plenty of vegetable oil." Canola. So it's a real shame. Nobody has, if somebody goes they want to, make a tuna salad or whatever, and why can't someone, for example, mayonnaise, is almost all, typical mayonnaise is all of these toxic oils, and nobody can step up and make a great tasting mayonnaise with good oil. Why don't you guys do it?
Until now.
What are you talking
Primal
about?
Kitchen Mayo. Wow, what a plugger right here.
Oh, wait a minute. That's right. They have.
And I sent them some for free, so let's put a disclaimer on this video.
It's actually very good. Yeah. We want more of those kinds of products. Can't I have my tuna salad without wrecking my brain? Now you can.
So the problem with vegetable oil, I remember your beautiful quote that we're parading around all over. It's literally no different than consuming radiation because of the state it's in. It's sustained oxidative damage during the processing, and it's also sensitive to heating temperature to have more oxidative damage. Is that the problem with the vegetable oils?
Very good. Yes.
You got
it. There are because they are polyunsaturated. These polyunsaturated molecules are fragile. They can't handle the heat and the bleaching and the deodorizing steps that occur during the processing, during the extraction from the seed to get them into the bottle. And this is very important, is true even if they're cold pressed, because cold pressing is only the first step. Then there's all that refining that involves all those other harsh chemicals, and that's what wrecks them really bad, so that by the time they're in the bottle, so I say a canola, organic, low aeroic acid, cold pressed or expeller pressed canola oil. By the time it's in the bottle, it has up to, they've tested, 5% trans fats. Okay, now this is of one particular molecule of trans fat. So there's many others in there. So they only have to assay for one particular type of trans bond. Okay, so in order to figure out what's actually in a bottle, it would be complicated, it would be very expensive. But when they mass produce it, they look for this one type thing and then they measure it, and that's what they found. So no doubt there's much more. There's, possibly 15% of just bad player molecules in there that are going to do no good for your body. They have no use. They're garbage. And one of the things that they do is they trigger free radical cascades in that, and those free radical cascades are where we get the analogy to radiation, because free radicals are high energy electrons that just smash into things and break molecules apart the same way radiation does and cause oxidative stress.
And it answers the very simple question when people say, why is junk food so bad for you? Is it that it's processed, that human hands have not touched it? Michael Pollan just wrote a book suggesting there might be something to that. It's literally, it's the machine does it rather than human hands. Or is it that it contains, limited levels of gluten? Or is it that, any number of things? Or is it the list is too long? Is it the preservatives? But if there's a single ingredient that best defines, when people say what specifically, if you want to get to the science of it, it's not, all of those things have some validity to it. But if you want the central defining feature of what makes a thing a junk food, and I mean the junk food out of your when it's midnight and you're going to get a candy bar to get through your shift at work, or if you're going to a high-end restaurant who's serving you high food, $100 plates that are loaded with these oils. Sorry, junk food, as far as I'm concerned.
If it's made out of that stuff.
If that's the central, if that is a main component in the dish, you're eating junk food. I don't care what you paid for it.
So if you're counseling a patient at your beautiful home office down the hall, and we want a quick soundbite to go away from, are these the two things I need to cut out of my diet are vegetable oil and sugar? Would that be as simple as that?
Pretty much.
It's a great start.
Yeah. Well, really, we don't even have to cut out sugar. We just have to get a clue to how much sugar we're actually eating, because it's so much. We produce so much sugar in this country that it's so much of what we can buy in the grocery store that it just makes its way into our lives in so many different forms. So we just have to be aware of all those forms and regulate it, because we do have some use for sugar in the body. And athletes can use a little bit more.
And of course we need vegetable oil too. No, we don't, as a matter of fact. No. We don't need any of it. Zero.
Right, we have an alternative.
Right.
And it's very tasty.
Yeah.
So in terms of navigating the shelves, canola oil, everyone's saying this is great. It's higher in omega-3s. Why is it lauded in the first place? And what's the confusion there? And then what can we go to instead if we right away after watching the video go home and ditch everything that's got high polyunsaturated vegetable / seed oil salad dressing? Tell us where to find it to, where to ditch it, and what to switch to.
Well, as Deep Throat says to Robert in All the President's Men. What's his name? The good-looking guy.
Robert Redford.
Robert Redford. Yeah. Follow the money, right? I mean, that's when people when you fly over the U.S. in an airplane, as you just recently did, and you look down and you see all those, golden fields out there, all those circles and squares. That is an attempt to deal with the fact that there's less complexity in nature needed, that's being asked to supply complex nutrient to a growing population. The only answer to that, and a Martian could tell you this before he's ever coming, they'd go, I bet what they have to do is to go to simpler and simpler foods, cheaper and cheaper to feed this growing population. And those two things now, if they have their way, we will be living off of the simplest carbohydrates, sugar, and vegetable oil, because those are cheap to grow, they're easy to genetically modify, and if you add enough flavoring to it, we seem to be willing to keep eating it, even though it's killing us.
Well, they tell us it's healthy too, and
it's part of the argument. Now we're getting into the ad campaign part, right? This is the marketing part.
Yeah. So there's the ad campaign.
Kate's vegetable oil commercial. Take 12. Here we go.
Yeah, she's not moving a lot of vegetable oil.
They're gonna come after me one of these days. But yeah, so what they say is that it's healthy because that canola in particular is healthy because it's got omega-3 fatty acids in it. Now that's true when it's growing in the ground and the seed, there's more omega-3 fatty acids in there than there is in like corn oil, right? So great. But
In the plant.
there's two problems with the argument there, and the first problem is the one that we have the hardest time understanding, and that is that because omega-3 fatty acids are polyunsaturated, they are very fragile. They're very sensitive to heat, and very few of them survive that harsh processing, and they are mutated during the processing into these unnatural fats that are actually going to
The same way trans are unnatural.
Right.
Same idea. Okay.
and will act like radiation in our bodies, as well as damaging enzymes and promoting oxidative stress and all that bad stuff. So, but the other reason is that we don't need a huge portion of our fat calories to be polyunsaturated fats. We actually need the largest portion to be the saturated fats and monounsaturated fats, for the very reason that they are so fragile. We can't control the reactions in our body to the degree that we need to deal with a large portion of polyunsaturated fatty acids in our diet. So even if it weren't processed, we wouldn't want to have that much of it. It would be too much polyunsaturated fat in our diet.
Because there's good sources of polyunsaturated fat, like nuts or something contain it.
Sure.
So we want to have those healthy sources of polyunsaturated fat, but instead we're pounding the vegetable oils and making it, what'd you say, 30% of your restaurant meal, 30 or 40% is...
Depending on the restaurant, it's going to be more than that. In some restaurants, it's going to be 80%.
Because
Because it's so calorically dense.
Let's
Yes.
take, for example, the healthy salad, and I want to yell at you about this too. Why can't you guys come up with
yell at
salad
Brad. He's our
dressings
guest.
that
It
have
doesn't
these?
have canola oil in there.
Why? You should.
Let's do it.
So, and I want to sample when you do.
It's downstairs.
Oh, very good. But let's say you don't have that wonderful Primal dressing, and you have to go. You go to a nice restaurant, you order a good healthy salad, and you order the typical dressing. What is the breakdown in calories in that salad of fats, all this toxic fat, versus the rest of the stuff?
Well, I happen to have the answer right here in my head. So about if you have about 2 tablespoons of salad dressing, that's
Normal,
gonna most of it's gonna be fat, so that's about 200 calories.
Okay.
And then the salad itself, let's say you have like 2 cups or 3 or
3
4
cups,
even
yeah.
cups of lettuce. That's something like
So
40
a good
calories.
size salad
So that's 200
to 40.
is what percentage
Right.
of 240? I think it's, we need that whiteboard again, but I think it's something like
Well,
80.
it's 5 times as much.
Yeah,
so,
4/5.
So we're looking at 80-20. We're looking at 80-20
So
breakdown.
most of your calories from the oil.
4, 6,
yeah.
5,
80%.
Yeah.
80%. So that's the salad. And then we went to a fine, upscale restaurant, not in Napa Valley, but right next door, Sonoma Valley. It was recommended highly, and we got it. And I got the couscous Moroccan chicken, and I started to get a little bit of a stomach ache. And I said, "Taste this." And Kate said, "Ooh, that's definitely canola." And I go, "How do you taste that?" So she has a better palate than I do. And she goes, "Here, think about canola as sort of at the." Like there's a taste enhancer, like salt enhances taste. It's a taste killer. It seems to take flavor away from it. So we asked them.
It's not just neutral.
And
Wow.
it was cooked in the canola. It had a canola
like
sauce. It was
marinated in it.
marinated in it. The salad, and I was, I mean, a little sarcastically, I was like, so why don't you just tell me what on the plate isn't canola and
Yeah,
save us time?
Well, worse than that, we
Unbelievable.
actually did ask her, is there anything on the menu that doesn't have canola? And she said no.
Wow.
Nothing on the whole menu.
That's how much of this works. So here's one of our big points. Let's pretend for a moment.
And how much did we pay for that meal?
$120 for the two of us, and no wine. But imagine this. We have to reconcile, and I don't care if you're vegan, if you're doing the Primal thing, if you're doing something in between, whatever diet people are doing, if they're on a regular American diet, do consider this. If you're not consciously thinking about how much of these what we're calling toxic oils are, at least it opens up the question, we are living off this stuff now. This does represent a bulk of our calories, and we're looking everywhere else about what the problems to our diet might be. Well, we could start with the thing that we now live off of. These oils now represent the mainstay calorically of a typical American diet.
Hidden danger. Yeah.
But we just presume, I'm sure that couldn't be the problem for obesity, kids having
Alzheimer's
Alzheimer's, the autism spectrum,
autoimmune disorders, and
birth defects, on down. Well, that couldn't. How could it be? It is like, and this is why it's frustrating for us, because imagine if you're a bunch of fish in a pond and everybody starts getting sick, and they say, well, I think it's the moss, and the other says, no, I think the sun has changed. It looks smaller than it used to, don't you think? And you're like, and the other, no, I think, and then Kate says,
and you have little PhD fish making their little like PhD theses about,
boy.
I think
it's the sand.
I think it's the sun. It
It's
got
the sun,
smaller.
it's gotta be the sun. But Kate says, shall we at least consider that there's something in the water itself? This thing that we're living in. Right. So, dietarily, we are surrounded. Remember that old commercial with the ivory liquid, and she said, "You're soaking in it." And oddly enough, this woman is on Quaaludes. She didn't realize her hand was soaking in a dish. That's she has that. She had that same problem with the tingling of the apparently. Right. She can't a nervous issue in her hand, But it's sort of like that. It's like, hey, you're soaking in it. If you're not paying attention to how much of these oils you're taking in, you're soaking in it. You're soaking your DNA in it. You're soaking every cell in your body in it. You're soaking your brain in it. At least ask, is this such a good idea to do for decades at a time? Mm-hmm. Perhaps not. Perhaps it's worth looking into.
And then we're going to ditch these and replace them with temperature stable saturated fats for cooking. Right. And consuming, we can have the monounsaturated, right? So the extra virgin olive oil.
Absolutely.
What else is on the okay list? Avocado oil now is becoming very popular.
Coconut, avocado.
Any of the traditional fats. So anything that's been used for generation after generation. So even peanut oil.
Around,
peanut oil, butter,
peanut oil.
ghee, and then sesame oil, but you mix sesame oil with peanut oil because sesame oil has a lot of antioxidants that peanut oil doesn't have, but it is highly polyunsaturated. So there's blends of oils, things that you can do. And then
each has their uses depending on the heat, but
oils with flavor.
Oils with flavor.
With flavor, good one.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, so the main issue is get those bottles out of your pantry.
Step one.
The vegetable and seed oils. And then be an advocate when you're dining out because it's so prevalent and it's absolutely hidden unless you have really good taste buds like Kate.
and when you're shopping. Because it's in like everything.
Oh, and
it's in even like healthy. It's in a lot of.
Oh, so frustrating. I mean, speaking of salad dressings, Paul Newman's red wine and olive oil dressing is the title of the dressing.
No, wait. I'm going to guess, of course, that must be 100% olive oil because otherwise that would be trickery.
Why wouldn't you call it something? Yeah. And the first ingredient on the label it says canola and or another vegetable oil. So that makes me think like whatever was on sale in the bulk bin that day is what they put into that particular batch.
Which reminds me, you were asking what we were going to have for dinner tonight, and I have an answer. We're having motor oil and styrofoam and or hamburger. Or a salad.
Motor oil would probably be better because you'd vomit it up. At least it wouldn't be going into your brain.
How do they get away with it? It's incredible. How do they get away with it? It's all they don't say. By the way, do they say? I'm just going to take a guess. On the label, does it say in the front, made with olive oil and or God knows what, or does it just have olive oil?
The fine print on the back.
But what it doesn't say is canola oil dressing because even though
it's the number one,
there's all these people that say we should all know it's good for you. They don't advertise it. Right? They don't advertise it. They hide it.
Right. That's funny, huh?
So you never see a dressing that says pure canola oil.
Right.
Yeah.
And it
so
goes
good for you. Why don't they?
The other day, I was at Costco and I was going to buy it, and you know how they had the salespeople on the side, and a nice young man stepped out and he said, "How'd you like to buy these 800 thread count sheets? Usually they're $400. Now they're $100." And I go, Is it cotton? And he says, it's half cotton. He says, and he's very specific, Egyptian cotton blend with polyester. And I look at the package and it said very plainly up front, 100% polyester. Now, even if I like the sheets, I wouldn't buy them. You know why?
On principle.
I would. Well, yes. Once someone lies to your face, right? You should. Once someone lies right to you, they've lied. I say, I'm out. I don't trust you.
Yeah.
So if you
company,
or if you have a label that says to me, good news, made with olive oil, which people who read about this stuff are getting wind of. Oh wait, these are the better oils, not the canola. Why do you think they're lying to you? Yeah. And why would we continue to trust and to buy their product? you know, what is it? Fool me once, shame on you.
Fool me twice.
Shame-a-lama ding dong or something
me.
like some shame on me.
Yeah.
I know it gets confusing there, but yeah, that's the way. When you're looking at these products, say that they're made with olive oil, or if you go to a restaurant and they have something to dip, you know, bread in or whatever, and they have canola oil, except for they'll drizzle it on top. No kidding, this is common practice to make you think.
They'll drizzle the olive oil.
They'll drizzle the olive.
So they already show up with the whole thing of
It
oil.
looks like
Would
it's
you like some olive oil good straight from the vineyards 30 miles away, locally grown? Sure, pour that all over my canola oil. Yeah.
But those restaurants where they say, and they say it straight to your face, and they look you in the eye, and they say, we don't use any canola in this restaurant. You say, bring me a menu and tip well.
Nice.
Because that's a good restaurant. That's a great sign.
All right.
And we have found some, and they tend to have better food too, so it's a nice coincidence.
My philosophy is simple. Every bite of food you eat should be both delicious and healthful. So I created Primal Kitchen to make healthy eating easy and exciting by offering the world's best tasting, nutrient-dense sauces and dressings. No more sacrificing flavor for health, and no offensive ingredients allowed. Primal Kitchen makes every bite awesome.